So today we are just going to continue right on with factoring. It's really important that we have that other information from previously this week. So if you've missed a day or if you've missed some information, make sure you're watching those videos from earlier this week because you'll need it to be able to factor trinomials. It all just builds up. So a trinomial, we've talked about this, right, is something with three terms. So when we're factoring trinomials, we're going to be factoring things that have three terms. Now, it can't just be anything with three terms. So normally, right, with grouping, it was just four terms. Three terms has to be in a specific form. It's going to have to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Or basically what this is saying is that it has to be a quadratic. Okay, so a degree of 2. So an exponent of 2, an exponent of 1, and then nothing. So if we saw something that said like 4x to the third, we wouldn't be able to factor it with the trinomial rules we're talking about right now. Now, that doesn't mean we couldn't factor it, just not with what we're learning today. Okay, so we're going to start by just sort of going through an example. So let's say we're given 5x squared plus 17x plus 6. Okay, so this is three terms. It's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So to factor this, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to multiply a and c. Okay, so a is the number in front of the x squared. C is the number that's the constant by itself, so the first and last here. So 5 times 6 gives me 30. So that's my first step. So not too much work. Even if it's a large number, you could use a calculator. Your second step is that you are going to list factors of that number you just got. So remember, factors are numbers that multiply up and give us 30. Okay, so we need to start making a list. My very strong suggestion to you is that you don't miss anything, and so you kind of go in order. So 1 times 30 is 30. So this isn't prime factoring, so I'm not breaking up 30. I'm listing all of the different ways I could get two numbers that multiply to 30. So 2 times 15 is 30. 3 times 10 is 30. 4 times nothing, so that doesn't work. And then 5 times 6 is 30. You'll know you're finished when the next number you would write down. So I'm just going in order, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 would be the next number I write down, but 6 is already over here. So that means I've finished my list. I have my factors of 30. Okay. Our next step is that we want to find the pair that adds up or has a sum, right? Adding a sum to B. Okay, so we're finding the pair that will add up to B. Okay, so B is the number sitting in front of the x to the first power, so that's going to be a 17 on this one. So we want to find the set that adds up. So 1 plus 30 is 31, not 17. 2 plus 15, oh, that's 17, so that's the pair we want. Now, here's the actual deal. We cannot really factor something that's three terms. We can only factor something that's four terms by grouping. So what we're going to do is we're going to take advantage of this 2 and 15 being the same thing as 17, and we are going to rewrite this into four terms. So I'm going to take my 17x and I'm going to split it up into two separate pieces. Okay, I'm going to split it up into a positive 2 and a positive 15. Now, 2 plus 15 is 17, and I really want it to be 17x. So I'm going to give both of these an x. Okay, then my other two terms at the beginning and end are just coming straight down. Okay, so 5x squared plus 2x plus 15x plus 6, right? If I were to combine these like terms in the middle, I'd get 17x. So this is the same expression as up above. I've just now written it with four terms instead of three terms. And as soon as I get that into 4 terms, then we're good to go. So now we can split it in half and we can factor by grouping. Okay, so over here on the left, our GCF, what will go into 5, that will also go into 2, that's only a 1, but they do both have the variable. So I can pull out an x, and that will give me a 5x plus 2. Okay, what goes into 15? That will also go into a 6. I can pull out a 3. That will give me a 5x plus 2. Just like we said yesterday, these match, which is what they have to do, so that's perfect. So I then get an x plus 3 and a 5x plus 2. And that is my factored form of 5x squared plus 17x plus 6. Okay, so let's look at another one. Let's say we have 3y squared plus y minus 4. Okay, so if we want to factor this, our first step is going to be to multiply a times c. So we're going to multiply 3 times negative 4, which will give us a negative 12. Okay, and we're going to start listing factors. Now, because this is a negative, our list gets super long, right? Because we could have 1 times negative 12 and negative 1 times 12. So my suggestion to you is that you ignore the negative and just make the list like it's a positive, and we'll take care of the negatives in a minute. So we'll have 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and then 3 times 4. Okay, so now when we're looking for the pair, we need to account for that negative. Okay, so here's the deal. 2 numbers that multiply up to a negative. That means we need 1 to be negative and we need 1 to be positive. Okay, but we also need them to add up to a positive. So that means we want our larger one to be positive and our smaller one to be negative. Now I'm going to give you a little trick here. I suggest when I write this down, you pause and you get it all written down in your notes. It'll be helpful. Here's a little cheat sheet. I'm just going to write them all down and then explain. Okay, so pause if you need to, if you're still writing. Okay, this cheat sheet tells you what signs to use. So when you have an addition sign followed by a subtraction sign, right? An addition sign followed by a subtraction sign, we're gonna make the first column negative, the second column positive. Okay, so what do we need these to add up to? So what is our B value in this problem? Our B value is really a 1, right? So we need these to add up to positive 1. So our set that's going to add up to positive 1 is going to be that negative 3 and 4. So what do we need to do with that negative 3 and 4? We need to split this up with that negative 3 and 4. So we're going to have a negative 3, a positive 4, and those both get a y. My last term's coming down, and my first term is coming down. Okay, so now I'm going to split it in half and start factoring by grouping. Okay, if this factoring by grouping part you feel a little bit overwhelmed with, you might need to go back and practice that factoring by grouping. Okay, over here on the right, we have a GCF of 4. Our binomials match. So our final answer will be a 3y plus 4 and a y minus 1. Now, the numbers aren't always small, so be prepared to make a list. So let's say we have 6w squared minus 7w minus 20. Okay, so if you need to, use a calculator to help you, right? When we say 6 times negative 20, we'll get negative 120. And we're going to start listing the factors. So, I mean, hopefully you don't have to do 120 divided by 1. But you could do 120 divided by 2, right? We're ignoring that negative. 120, right? Just type them all in your calculator. Divided by 3. And then switch it to divided by 4. Oops, it's a 40. And then switch it to divided by 5, right? You could just go down the list and keep doing this with a calculator if, oh, that's a 24, sorry guys. If that's what you needed to do. Okay, whatever you need to do to sort of get this big old long list made. 7 won't work. Let's see, let's check 8, 15. 9 goes in once and 30, no. 10 and 12, 11 and nothing. Holy cow, right? One big old long list. That even is all fitting on the screen barely. Okay, but now we're gonna check our signs. So we need to include that negative. So if we go back over here to this little list I gave you, this is a negative followed by a negative. A subtraction and a subtraction, a subtraction and a subtraction. So we want the first column to be positive and the second column to be negative. So these are my ones I'm gonna make as a negative. Okay, and what do I need them to add up to on this one? Right, we need it to add up to -7. So go down this list and decide which pair you want to pick. Right, we should have picked 8 and -15. Okay, so we're gonna take those pieces and we're gonna split up that B. So we have a +8 and a -15. Those both get the W. And then the first and last term are just coming straight down. Okay, so now when we go to factor this by grouping, we're gonna split it in half. Okay, on this left-hand side, what is our GCF going to be? We should be pulling out a GCF of 2W. Okay, so when we pull out that 2W, it will leave us with a 3W plus 4. Okay, now on the right-hand side, what is our GCF going to be on the right-hand side? Right, we should be picking a GCF of -5 because our rules with grouping, right, that leading one is negative. So if we pull out that -5, we'll get a 3W and a +4, right? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So what will our final answer for this trinomial be? We should have a 2W minus 5 and a 3W plus 4. Now remember, we also said that the order of those binomials doesn't matter. So what's another answer that we could pick that would represent the same thing? We could also have 3W plus 4 and a 2W minus 5.